The small classroom buzzed with the chatter of restless students. The peeling paint on the walls and the rickety desks bore witness to years of use. Among the students was a boy named Daniel, a quiet child who sat in the back, avoiding eye contact with his classmates and his teacher. He was used to being invisible, accustomed to failure, and resigned to the idea that he was not meant to succeed. Daniel's world was one of hardship. Raised by a single mother who worked multiple jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, he had learned early on that life was not kind. School had always been a struggle. His grades were poor, his motivation lower, and his confidence non-existent. Teachers had long since dismissed him as a lost cause, except for one. Ms. Thompson was different. She had just transferred to the school, and from the moment she stepped into the classroom, her presence commanded attention. Unlike the others, she did not write Daniel off. Instead, she saw a spark in him that no one else had bothered to look for. While other teachers had sighed in frustration at his failing grades, Ms. Thompson chose to ask why. And when she did, she listened. One day, after class, she stopped Daniel as he tried to slip out unnoticed. "Daniel," she said gently, "I see something special in you. But you have to see it too. Will you let me help you?" Daniel hesitated. He had heard words of encouragement before, but they had always felt hollow. Yet something in Ms. Thompson's voice made him pause. There was sincerity in her eyes, a kindness he was not used to receiving. Against his better judgment, he nodded. Thus began a journey that would change Daniel's life forever. Ms. Thompson worked tirelessly with him, staying after school to help with his assignments, finding creative ways to make learning engaging, and most importantly, reminding him every day that he was capable. When he stumbled, she did not scold, she encouraged. When he failed, she did not give up, she pushed him to try again. Slowly, the walls Daniel had built around himself began to crumble. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. He started to believe, if only a little, that he might be capable of more than he had allowed himself to dream. The transformation was not immediate, nor was it easy. There were moments of frustration, days when he wanted to quit, times when he felt that old familiar voice in his head telling him he was not good enough. But Ms. Thompson never wavered. One particular moment stood out in Daniel's journey. It was a math test, his worst subject. He had studied harder than ever before, with Ms. Thompson guiding him every step of the way. When he received his test back, he almost couldn't believe his eyes. He had passed. Not with flying colors, but with a solid, respectable score. It was the first time he had ever felt true pride in his own work. Encouraged by this small victory, Daniel pushed himself further. He began participating in class, asking questions, and even helping his classmates. His newfound confidence extended beyond academics. He joined the school's debate team, something he never would have dreamed of before, and though he was terrified at first, Ms. Thompson was always there, cheering him on. Years passed, and Daniel's efforts began to bear fruit. His grades improved, his confidence grew, and soon, the boy who had once sat silently in the back of the class was now answering questions, engaging in discussions, and even daring to dream of a future he had never thought possible. The day he received his high school diploma was the proudest moment of his life. But even prouder was the moment he stood on the stage years later, delivering a speech as the first in his family to graduate from college. Among the crowd, with tears in her eyes and pride in her heart, was Ms. Thompson, the teacher who had believed in him when no one else had. Daniel went on to become an educator himself, dedicating his life to helping students like him, those who had been written off, those who had lost hope. He knew firsthand the power of a single person's belief, and he vowed to pass that gift on. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a life is one person who refuses to give up. As a teacher, Daniel made it his mission to find students who were struggling, just as he once had. He saw beyond their failing grades and misbehavior, recognizing the pain and self-doubt that often lay beneath the surface. He took extra time with them, just as Ms. Thompson had done for him. Slowly but surely, he began to witness transformations similar to his own. One day, a quiet girl named Sarah walked into his classroom. She reminded him of himself at that age, reserved, uncertain, and carrying a weight she wouldn't speak of. He reached out to her, offering the same unwavering support that had once saved him. Over time, she began to open up, and just like Daniel, she discovered a strength she never knew she had. Years later, Sarah stood in front of Daniel, now an accomplished writer, ready to thank the teacher who had changed her life. With tears in her eyes, she echoed the same words he had once spoken to Ms. Thompson: "You believed in me when no one else did." That made all the difference. Daniel smiled, knowing that the cycle of belief and transformation would continue, reaching countless students in the years to come. And all of it had started with one teacher who had chosen to see potential where others had seen failure. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person to change the course of a life forever.